The last thing I remember before everything went dark was my sister standing there, watching her husband's hands around my throat while he screamed, "Just sign it." I thought my own family would stop him. I thought someone would step between us. But nobody moved. My shoulder was injured, my face was covered in blood, and the person I trusted most chose silence. What they didn't know was that one desperate action I took before losing consciousness would bring military police to that house. And when they arrived, the truth they uncovered changed everything. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 29 years old, and for most of my life, I believed family was the one place where I would always be safe. I worked as a medical administrator in Colorado, built a quiet life for myself, and stayed close to my younger sister, Hannah. We weren't perfect, but I thought we understood each other. I was the person she called when she needed advice, money, or someone to believe in her. When Hannah married Daniel, I genuinely wanted him to be part of our family. At first, he was charming, respectful, and always knew exactly what to say. He made everyone believe he was the kind of man who would protect my sister and build a future with her. But slowly, I started noticing small changes. Hannah stopped making decisions without asking Daniel first. She stopped laughing the way she used to. Every conversation somehow turned into what he wanted, what he needed, or what would make him happy. Then one afternoon, Daniel called me and asked for a favor. He said he was expanding his business and needed help getting approved for a large loan. He told me all I had to do was sign as a guarantor. "It's just a formality," he said. "You won't have to do anything." But when I read the documents, my stomach dropped. My name would be tied to the debt. If things went wrong, I could lose everything I had worked for. So I made the hardest decision. I told him no. And that one word changed the way my sister and her husband looked at me forever. A few days later, Hannah sent me a message saying we needed to talk. She said it was about fixing everything. But deep down, I already felt something was wrong. When I arrived at Hannah's house that evening, I still hoped I was walking into a normal family conversation. I wanted to believe there was a misunderstanding. I wanted to believe my sister would finally understand why I couldn't put my entire future at risk for someone else's financial problems. But the moment I stepped inside, I knew something was different. Hannah was sitting quietly on the couch, avoiding eye contact. Daniel was standing near the kitchen table with the loan documents already spread out in front of him. He didn't greet me. He didn't ask how I was doing. He simply pointed at the papers. "Sit down, Emily. We need to finish this." That was when I realized this was never about having a conversation. It was about getting my signature. Daniel started explaining again why the loan was safe and why I was making things difficult. He told me I was overthinking everything. He said family was supposed to help each other. Then Hannah looked at me and said something I never expected to hear from her. "Emily, why are you making this so complicated? Just sign it." I stared at her, waiting for the sister I knew to appear. The sister who used to call me when she needed advice. The sister who once promised we would always stand together. But she wasn't there. I calmly told them my answer was still no. I wasn't going to risk my credit, my savings, and my entire future just because Daniel wanted an easier way to get approved. That's when his attitude changed. His voice became louder. His friendly expression disappeared. "You think you're better than us?" he snapped. I stood up and said I was leaving. But Daniel moved in front of the door. And for the first time, I felt something I couldn't ignore. Fear. The moment Daniel blocked the doorway, every instinct inside me told me something was wrong. I looked at Hannah, hoping she would say something, hoping she would tell him to move, hoping she would remind him that I was her sister, not someone he could intimidate. But she just stood there, silent. That silence hurt almost as much as what happened next. I told Daniel again that I was not signing anything. I told him he had no right to pressure me or stop me from leaving. But instead of stepping back, he moved closer. His anger wasn't about the loan anymore. It was about control. The conversation that started with paperwork had turned into something much darker. I realized he didn't care about my concerns, my future, or the years I had spent building my life. He only cared about getting what he wanted. I tried to move past him, but he grabbed me and forced me back. My heart started racing. I remember the shock of realizing that this wasn't just an argument anymore. This was a moment where I needed to protect myself. I fought to get away and reached for the emergency alert device I had recently set up on my phone after receiving several threatening messages from Daniel. I never thought I would actually need it, but I did. With shaking hands, I activated the SOS button. A few seconds later, a small notification appeared confirming that help had been contacted. Daniel didn't notice. He kept demanding that I sign the papers, but my mind was focused on one thing: surviving this moment. I don't remember every second after that clearly. I remember fear. I remember my sister standing nearby and not stopping him. I remember wondering how the person I trusted most could watch me go through this. Then, just before everything started fading around me, I heard a sound. A notification. Help was on the way. And for the first time that night, I knew I wasn't completely alone. The next thing I clearly remember was hearing voices around me. At first, everything sounded distant, like I was underwater. Then I heard someone calling my name and asking if I could respond. My eyes slowly opened, and I saw people moving quickly around the room. Help had arrived. The emergency alert I activated had done exactly what it was supposed to do. Because of my previous connection with military services through my work and location history, the alert reached the right people, and military police were dispatched to the scene. They entered the house calmly, but with complete control. Within minutes, everything changed. Daniel was no longer the person standing in front of me demanding a signature. He was the person being questioned. The confidence he had moments earlier disappeared as officers separated everyone and started documenting what happened. Hannah immediately tried to explain. She said it was just an argument. She said things had gotten out of hand. She tried to make it sound like a simple family disagreement. But the investigators were not interested in excuses. They asked questions. Why were loan papers on the table? Why was I blocked from leaving? Why did my emergency alert activate? Why were there messages showing Daniel had been pressuring me for days? Slowly, the story he wanted everyone to believe started falling apart. One officer showed me screenshots they had recovered from my phone. Messages where Daniel repeatedly demanded that I sign. Messages where he warned me that refusing would have consequences. That was the moment I realized something important. This was never just about a loan. The papers were only the beginning. The investigators looked at me and asked a question I will never forget. Emily, has he ever threatened you before tonight? And for the first time, I stopped protecting my family's image and decided to tell the truth. For years, I thought the worst thing Daniel had done was trying to pressure me into signing those papers. I was wrong. When I finally started telling investigators everything, I realized how many warning signs I had ignored because I loved my sister. I remembered all the moments that seemed small at the time. The way Hannah always apologized for Daniel's behavior. The way she would make excuses for him. The way she slowly stopped making decisions for herself. I told them about the messages, the calls, and the constant pressure. I explained how Daniel had been trying to convince me that refusing to help him meant I didn't care about my own sister. But the truth was different. He wasn't asking for help. He was trying to use me. The investigators discovered that the loan was not just a business opportunity like Daniel claimed. There were financial problems he had hidden from everyone. He needed my name because his own credit history made approval difficult. My signature would have protected him and destroyed me. The hardest part wasn't realizing who Daniel really was. It was realizing Hannah knew more than she admitted. She finally broke down and told the investigators that she had been afraid of him for a long time. She said she convinced herself that staying quiet would keep things from getting worse. But her silence allowed him to believe he could do anything. I listened to my sister apologize, and I felt two emotions at the same time: anger and sadness. Because I didn't just lose trust in Daniel that day. I lost the version of my sister I thought would always stand beside me. And that was a pain I never expected. After that night, everything changed faster than I could have imagined. For the first time, Daniel could no longer control the story. He couldn't convince people that I was the problem. He couldn't hide behind the image of being a successful businessman and a perfect husband. The evidence spoke for itself. The investigation continued, and the pressure he had put on me became impossible to ignore. The messages, the documents, and the events inside that house painted a clear picture of what had really happened. The loan situation was reviewed, and the financial deception he had been hiding started coming to light. The man who spent so much time telling others that he was in control was suddenly facing the consequences of his own choices. But the hardest part for me was not watching Daniel lose everything. It was accepting that my sister had chosen silence when I needed her most. Hannah eventually reached out to me. She apologized over and over. She admitted that she should have protected me. She admitted that she allowed fear to control her decisions. I wanted to be angry. I was angry, but I was also exhausted from carrying the pain of that night. I realized something important. Forgiving someone does not mean pretending nothing happened. It does not mean allowing them back into your life without change. Sometimes forgiveness is simply letting go of the anger that keeps hurting you. And that was the beginning of me taking my life back. Not for Daniel. Not for Hannah. For myself. A few weeks after everything happened, I met Hannah one final time. We sat across from each other at a quiet coffee shop, and for the first time in months, there was no anger between us. Just two sisters trying to understand how we ended up so far apart. Hannah looked different. Not because of her appearance, but because the confidence she used to have was gone. She finally admitted that she had spent years ignoring the truth because accepting it meant admitting she had made the wrong choices. She told me she was sorry. She told me she should have stopped Daniel. She told me she should have believed me. And I wanted to say that everything was okay. But it wasn't. Some wounds don't disappear because someone finally says sorry. I told her I hoped she found peace, but I also needed to find mine. I explained that forgiveness didn't mean forgetting what happened. It didn't mean returning to the same relationship and pretending nothing changed. It meant choosing not to let that pain control my future. That night changed me forever. I learned that family is not just about sharing blood. Family is about the people who protect you when you are vulnerable. The people who stand beside you when things get difficult. I survived because I trusted myself. I walked away from the people who tried to break me, and I built a life they could never take from me. Because sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stop fighting for someone else's approval and finally choose yourself. If my story taught you anything today, remember this. Nobody has the right to pressure you, control you, or make you feel unsafe. Your voice matters. And if you enjoyed the story, let me know where you're watching from. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more powerful stories.